Hello, I am roaringbug and welcome to my Sims 4 speed build. So, if you like my video, please like, subscribe, or leave me a comment. And if you'd like to reach me, you can contact me at my various social media platforms in the video description. And if you like this build, you can download it off the gallery at roaringbug, all one word. And now let's get into it. So this build is called the Blue Beauty Victorian, and it is completely base game, so you don't need any extra packs in order to have all the items in this build. And if you've been following my channel, then you've probably seen that I've made quite a few Victorian base game only houses lately in The Sims, and I just really like it, and I've been on a roll making them. And I just really like the look of Victorian houses. They just look very pretty, and what you're seeing right now is how I'm just doing the bare bone structure of the build. I know it looks really strange, and you're probably wondering, how the heck do I know what I'm doing? I'm just following the picture. I only have the front picture that you saw. I don't base my builds off any floor plans because they just don't really work out in The Sims, just because of scale. So I usually just make my houses look like the front picture, and I kind of make up the rest as I go along, because I really don't know how everything is going to fit in the interior of the build. But what I really enjoyed about this house is that it has a floating tower on the second floor that kind of matches the other tower off to the left of the build. And I just thought the picture looked really cool, and it looked nice, and it looked like a challenge, and it looked like something that I could totally do. What you're seeing right now, what I did is I completely covered the attic space with roof pieces, just so that I can completely enclose the space. And I've learned my lesson that if I'm going to do bump outs, I should really just give them flat, like a flat area over the bay window area, because it just isn't worth it making it cut off. And all the platforms that you saw was just so I could put this trim that you're seeing that I put on the house. Otherwise, the trim just won't take on the house unless I'm putting it on like medium wall height or more, or if I use like the shift key in order to put like a regular outside trim. That's actually like a floor trim, and like I said, it only takes if you put a platform everywhere. And I kind of forgot that this house had a balcony area, so this is how I'm trying to put this balcony. So the thing about balconies is that railings and roof pieces don't mix. They just don't want to touch each other. So in order to get around that issue, what you need to do is actually just extend the roof. So the actual roof doesn't touch the railing, it's just pulled out. And you can pull out one end of the roof piece by holding the shift key. If not, it'll pull out on both sides, which is kind of annoying. And I decided to give these towers a white color instead of blue, because I thought it was a little too matchy and a little too same. But I didn't want to take away the railing, so I made this little overhang over the front entranceway of the porch a little flatter, just so that it wouldn't like block everything. But that balcony is a non-functioning balcony, it's just for looks. A lot of what is involved in a Victorian house is mainly looks, but it looks great, so I'm not going to complain about it. And the thing about this house is that it's asymmetrical, but it has to be like, it has to strike the right balance between asymmetrical and symmetrical. Like the entranceway is symmetrical, but because of the towers, it's not symmetrical. And it's like a whole thing to try and see if you can get it to work. And I put this little white trim over the second floor because I thought it needed a little bit more contrast. And I like putting down my windows before I do my floor plans just because I like seeing the look of the house. And I just want to get a good feel of what everything is gonna look like, even though I'm probably gonna change it after I start putting walls down. So I raised the platform of the build by 5 steps because I found that that is my sweet magic number of how many steps I should put in my house. Because it hits that sweet spot where the plants next to the building don't poke into the building, but it's not so high that it looks ridiculous. So yeah, I go with 5 steps high. And I'm putting this very manicured planter around the front of the house and the sides of the house, just so that it looks a little bit more structured. This is like a pretty new technique for me. I'm kind of unsure about it. Like, I don't know how nice that looks, but it's a look that I've been going with lately because sometimes you don't really know what you're going to do with landscaping. I don't know how other people feel, but when I do landscaping, I really am not sure how to do it. I think most people are kind of unsure about landscaping. So I didn't want to do the same old, so I took this bush from Oasis Spring because it just has a nice texture, and I just kind of put it everywhere, and it sort of looked like my reference picture because the actual house has a whole bunch of bushes, and I didn't want to do the same thing over and over again. So I thought I'd go with a more yellow looking color to go with this blue house because blue and yellow are pretty good opposing colors, so I thought it would be a nice accent color for this build. The tricky part with putting down plants around a house is on a platform is that the plants want to jump up to the platform, and you can get around that by putting the house back on ground level and then raising it back up because the plants won't jump up. So that's what I'm doing right here. I put the house back on ground level just so I can tuck all these plants in because it was getting to me. It was getting kind of annoying trying to put all of these like flowers and everything close to the house because it just wouldn't go in the right spot. And I'm basically alt placing all of these plants. So if you hold the alt key and you move around the plants, it'll move off the grid and you can move it freely, and it won't just get stuck just using the grid system. So I am freely placing these plants in the spots that I want, and I'm using Control C in order to, not Control C, I'm using Shift and I'm using the key commands in order, it's like the little hard bracket keys in order to change the size of the items. That's how I'm able to make items bigger and smaller. Because when you do landscaping, it's actually easier to make plants bigger so you can use less plants, because frankly you can use a lot of plants and it's easier just to make a bigger, bushier plant. So now I'm putting back all the stairs and I have to put back all the railings, and I thought it looked a little plain still, so I put some stones down in order to have a little bit more texture, and now I'm closing off the yard. So that's a base game tree, and it actually has probably one of the nicest textures I've seen. The thing about that tree is that I feel like it may not always fit because I feel like it might be a little too real looking, which is a weird thing to say, but yeah, I feel like that tree might look a little too real sometimes. But I wanted to use it here and I just shrunk it down because it's actually a really huge tree. And this backyard just has a pool and a barbecue. And I put a little bit of a garden area, but not too much, in the garden here in the yard. So I'm being very methodical here. So I'm trying to do the most of the outside of the house, and then I'm going to work my way one floor at a time up. Oh yeah, and what I'm doing here on the roof is I put two of the same roof just so that I can have the part of the roof trim facing the actual part of the roof black. So if you want like two tones on a roof piece, you have to put two pieces of roof. So now I'm inside the house and I'm trying to figure out the layout, which is kind of hard, trying to figure out the layout of a house. So I moved those windows because I wanted to put a fireplace in this build. So I chose this wall and I nominated my fireplace wall. And I was like, I guess I'll use gray brick because at this point it's either going to be red or blackish gray. But it goes better with a blue house to use the grayish looking brick. And I use the herringbone flooring in a light color swatch. And because this house is called the Blue Beauty, I decided to make this a blue house. It's not a blue suburban, it's a blue Victorian. And I've been going through all the colors of the rainbow when it comes to Victorian houses. I think I've made a Victorian house in practically every color. But I think it's been a while since I've made a blue one. And for this kitchen, I just put this little bar. So I don't know, you kind of get into a formula, got into a swing of things. I feel like because I'm using base game, I use basically the same items in the same way all the time. But you know, I like the look of Victorian houses, and I know not everyone has all the packs, and I know that on the gallery it's really hard to filter the packs that you do own from the packs that you don't. So in order to avoid all of that, that's why I decided to make these Victorian houses just with base game. But you know, I think it's a really good challenge because, you know, sometimes you might get overwhelmed with too many options. So I think it's quite the challenge to try and make a house just with restrictions. And what you're seeing right now is I'm making like a tiny little like study area here. So it's just a little place by the fireplace to sit and read a book. And this room here is going to be a skill building room. So I put a piano here, and I put a desk with a computer, and I put an easel and a workbench. So I like those items because you can actually have your sim make money without a job, just making paintings or just crafting. The crafting skill actually takes a while, and I think the biggest like money item you can make with the workbench are bathtubs. So yeah, you could make your money making bathtubs if you want to just make crafting a thing for your sim to do. So what you're seeing right now is I changed the shape of the stairs, and I changed the shape of the stairs on the second floor because I didn't have any space. I didn't have any space in the yard in order to do it, because normally I would just take my stairs outside in order to try and figure out the shape of them. But this time around I couldn't do that because I already have backyard furniture. So yeah, so right now I'm just trying to figure out these bedrooms and trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and I never can really figure out spacing too well unless I have a bed. So I have this cheap base game bed and I'm just moving it around just so I can figure out the space for the bedrooms. And I wanted this attic space to be accessible, so what you're seeing, what I did is I made a bump out just so I can add another window in this space. Because it's so dark in the attic, because it's all closed in with roof pieces, I was like, I need to put a window here. So I put a tiny little bump out window. It doesn't go beyond the profile of the build in the front, so you're not going to even notice it in the front. And it's actually a really big house, you know, because it has, you know, 3 floors. So if you wanted to, you can add like an extra bed in this house, and it should fit a total of 8 Sims, which is the max number of in-game Sims you can have in a house. And like I said, the theme of this house is blue, so everything is going to be colored in with different swatches of blue. So this bedroom here is going to be the primary bedroom, and I wanted it to be, I don't know, kind of traditional. It's a Victorian house, so you can't really make it anything but traditional. So I thought it looked okay. And I use those cherry pictures lately as faux family pictures. I know that there's been like a glitch that I think it's fixed now, where you can put family portraits in your house. There was like a glitch lately that I heard where if you take family portraits and you put it in your inventory, they go black. That personally hasn't happened for me because I don't normally take pictures of my Sims. I used to when I first played The Sims. I used to take loads of pictures of my Sims. You know, I would like commemorate every milestone they had with a picture, and I would put it in my Sims house. But I'm like a lazy butt now. I don't even bother doing that. I think the only time I have my Sims take pictures is when they get married, and they don't even keep that picture in their house. Like, I'm playing my personal gameplay, I'm playing a legacy family. It's on like Gen 11, and my Sims have a family mausoleum, and I just have them take a wedding picture, stick one in the mausoleum, and wait for them to have an urn, and I just stick it in that mausoleum in the cemetery. And that's where I've been keeping my 11 generations of Sims. And I put it in the vampire world. So yeah, I usually have like a relative pick up the urn and then visit the cemetery. And that's what I've been doing lately. And it's gotten to the point that I ended up making a basement level. So there's actually a catacomb in that cemetery church place now. I mean, it's a church venue, so if my Sims wanted to, they can get married there too. But yeah, it's a little dark. I really went through with the lore with that. And for, like, I don't really talk about my own gameplay, but it's gotten to the point that I don't really know what to do with my current Sim. I'm trying to make her into a baker, because I hadn't done baking retail store in a while. I don't know if anyone has ever done that gameplay. I think you need like the store thing that comes with Get to Work, where you can have a retail store. But if you can download mods, you can just download Little Miss Sam's live-in store mod, and you can just sell things from your house. But right now she lives like in a tiny starter house, and she doesn't really have anything except a dog. So, and she didn't even take her family money, because after 11 generations, like, her family's pretty well to do, but I think all of her like cousins have the money now. So back to this build, I am trying to figure out what to do with this 3rd floor. So I decided to turn it into a home gym. And I found a guitar, and I thought that would be better on the 1st floor. And I put a cupcake machine, just, you know, why not? I have the space for it. If you want, you could easily convert another bedroom in this space. But I only put a little bedroom in the tower. So, I feel so guilty. It's like a tiny little bedroom on the top tower of this giant house. It feels like a punishment. Like, it feels like a space that, you know, where Cinderella's stepmother locked her in the tower. I just feel so awful about that. But, you know, maybe they like their privacy. So right now you're just seeing me put some terrain paint around the house just so that it looks like it didn't fall out of the sky. And I put a trash can in that infant's room. And that is the end of my video. Thank you for watching. Bye.